And we're back. It is the My Nerd World Star Wars podcast. And joining us on the podcast this week, Andrew Langer, host of the LangerCast and the Realm Network, also president of the Institute for Liberty. I'm playing the Jedi Steps from the soundtrack, which is the music after Rey arrives on Luke's planet, which they have a name for it now, Andrew. I don't know if you've heard this or not. Achto, ACH-TO is apparently the name of Luke's planet.
Okay.
But it's interesting. This music played in one of the central trailers, but this is the only part in the movie when it actually played. I love the theme, and I think it'll eventually end up becoming Luke's theme. I've heard a lot of people criticizing John Williams a bit, and I really think it comes back to, again, people have an immediate expectation that they are going to instantly love this music and they're going to instantly feel something. And this certainly was the case with Rey's theme, which we played there before the break. But I think people in the world that we live in right now, and this is a good transition, but in society right now, we have such a desire for instant gratification on so many different levels. And the fact that you can get your news whenever you want instantly, and if something's happening, you can go to Twitter and immediately get information. And I think that translates in a lot of ways to the way people were perceiving this movie, even though it's been such a success. But when it comes to John Williams' soundtrack, I think a lot of people weren't allowing time to go by to get used to some of these themes, because they were instantly wanting. They wanted to hear a Duel of the Fates immediately, or they wanted to hear an Imperial March. And I think it was unfair to the work that John Williams did. I think the soundtrack is spectacular.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the instant gratification part. I mean, listen, I am someone who did listen to the original Star Wars vinyl album, over and over and over again. In fact, I'm almost positive I need to go pull that out of my parents' record collection before they move. But if you think about it, I mean, I didn't get that album until months after the movie came out. I think the most instant gratification any of us got in that regard, right? Because think about this part as well. It's not like today where we were able to hear this movie in a variety of options instantaneously. It's
right.
Not like we were hearing the Star Wars theme being played on AM radio. It certainly wasn't being played on classical radio. The closest we got was the Nico Star Wars theme that came out that summer. Which, admittedly, is a great theme. Oh, and then the lesser-known 1983 Ewok rap record. I'm totally serious about that. Do you remember that? Did you ever hear that?
I do remember that. I do. I wish you hadn't brought it up, but I do remember it.
I love that. I love the Ewok rap. Listen, I put it up there. I have such fond memories of, especially now. Oh, it's you sort of think about this. Of the original Max Rebo music, Cy Snoodles and the Max Rebo band in the original cut of Return of the Jedi, and I can't listen to the. Actually, that's not true. The new Max Rebo music grew on me, but I loved the original.
That was probably one of the few additions to the special editions that I was kind of like, eh. I like them for the most part, but there was something about that ridiculous puppet in Jabbas Palace originally, Snice Noodles. There was something about the original one that just, as a kid, I can still remember it in my mind, and I really had wished that they would have kept that. I really
not to spend a lot of time on this, but really, if you go back, folks, and you watch, I think you can find that online. The original Star Wars to Jedi. The Making of a Saga, which was a really great VHS tape that came out, I think, in like 85, 86, in which they go back. And part of the reason why you love Cy Snoodles, John, I think, is because she was a practical effect. Yeah. And it changed around for this computer-generated one in the re-release. And they showed how they articulated her lips and how she danced. And that was just fantastic. Also, incidentally, from Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, where they give an almost triumph the insult comic dog voice to Salacious Crumb, who kind of narrates the creatures in the Creature Studio at at the studios. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to digress so much.
No, that's okay. You know, it's funny though. I mean, when you go and you look at that CGI, then which was daring. I mean, you got to give Lucas credit where credit's due. But you look at how far we've come now, and just what an amazing job they did on Maz Kanata.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just it's funny too. Just as a side note, it still makes me laugh because I was watching. My family was in town for Christmas, and they'd never seen the Empire of Dreams documentary. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Okay. Empire of Dreams documentary is the absolute best original trilogy documentary that you will ever watch for Star Wars. It came with the initial DVD release in 97, and they have not put it back out on subsequent Blu-ray releases. I actually kept the disc from the DVD set. It's on YouTube if you just search for Empire of Dreams. It's infinitely watchable. If I ever am stuck on which movie I want to watch, I'll toss in the documentary and watch it. But there's a moment in the movie where George Lucas talks about Yoda and how paranoid they were of Yoda not working. And Lucas says, the problem is if Yoda doesn't work, the whole movie fails because the entire movie will get crushed under the weight of that particular character failing. And you watch that moment in the documentary and you just shake your head and you go, oh, yeah, and that's exactly what happened in The Phantom Menace. Because he's true. He was absolutely right. If you have a different character other than Jar Jar Binks or Jar Jar Binks works, that movie is drastically different, and that whole element is gone. I mean, when you take the Jar Jar element out, and it makes you can still find pacing issues and wooden dialogue, sure, but you take Jar Jar out of the equation, and that movie does not is criticized as much as it is now.
See, and I thought you were going down the road of criticizing the CGI version of Yoda, which, strangely enough, I never found nearly as lifelike as Frank Oz puppet.
No, I didn't. The Frank Oz puppet in Phantom Menace was horrible, though. I'm glad that they replaced it because that just never looked right to me in Phantom Menace, and they've subsequently replaced it with the Blu-ray. Okay, let's go here. Let's go here first, and then we're going to go to Kylo because I definitely want to talk Kylo. But where? Which this could take up the extra time that we have, but we'll try to make it quick.
All right,
so,
I'll be brief.
Who do you think Rey's parents are? Who do you want Rey's parents to be?
My theory, and I maintain this theory. I've heard the Kenobi theory, and it's a good theory.
Yeah, that's the one I put forward that in great detail last week, but in a week's time, I'm already changing my tune.
I think we are going to find that Rey's parents are Luke Skywalker and some kind of Emperor Palpatine offspring.
Oh, you're going there.
I am going there. I think we don't know. We don't know what who knows where what sort of affairs Emperor Palpatine might have had over the years. Then again, I do have this, and this gets into my theory, the Darth Plagueis Supreme Commander Snoke theory. But yeah, I think we're going to find out that it's Luke Skywalker, and that she. Anyway, we can get further into the theory, but Luke Skywalker and some offspring of Emperor Palpatine.
Let me throw this at you. Have you, probably not, but when you get a chance, get a picture of Felicity Jones and put it next to a picture of Daisy Ridley.
Okay.
Felicity Jones plays...
No, John, I have not put Felicity Jones's picture next to Daisy Ridley's. Why do you ask?
Felicity Jones plays the main character in Rogue One.
Oh, interesting.
Felicity Jones, my understanding is she actually has, I'm pretty sure she's British. So, what if, I'm just can't afford, jar lid off worms everywhere, right? But, and I think this would be, if done right, would be utter genius on Disney's part. Okay, Rogue One doesn't have nearly as much hype surrounding it as The Force Awakens does. maybe I'm sure that will grow once we get past this release in the theater and we get closer to the Blu-ray release and we get further into the year and we begin to see trailers. But, Rogue One is the story right before A New Hope of the Death Star plans being taken.
Yes.
And, they have said that these stories are canon, obviously, but are taking place separate of the saga. How genius would it end up being on Disney's part to end up essentially, without anybody really knowing it up front, be telling the backstory of Rey's mom within Rogue One?
It would certainly make a lot of sense, especially if Felicity Jones's character is established in some way as a Force adept, right? Because I mean, not that I guess both parents have to, be sensitive, Force sensitive. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, is Force sensitive, not Force adept, but Force sensitive. But that would certainly explain why the Force is so powerful with her. I guess, but you've talked about the Kenobi theory. This would assume that it is Luke Skywalker and whoever Felicity Jones's character in Rogue One.
Right. And what if...
I love it.
Hold on. I got one more for you. What if the big sort of ta-da moment in Rogue One ends up being that at the end of the film, the whole reason why Princess Leia knows and needs to get the Death Star plans to Obi-Wan Kenobi is because Kenobi's daughter tells her, "Get these to my father."
Oh, dun dun dun! That's
right.
All right. That's it. I'm in, man. That's a great theory. I love that theory. Forget the Palpatine stuff.
The ages match up.
Yes.
The ages match up. If she ends up being the daughter of Obi-Wan, now that would essentially mean that he would have had to have. You're still going to have to get a backstory. This is going to happen either way when it comes to, if she ends up being Luke's kid. They are going to have to tell the backstory somehow. I mean, they're going to have to get there. Even if she's Luke's daughter, then you still have to go, who was the mom? When did that happen? How did that happen? It's going to happen with any one of these theories, even the one that you presented. But the ages line up. He would have had to have hooked up, and she would have had to have been born shortly after Episode 3. Shortly after he's gone into exile. The other wrinkle in this, too, is in the Clone Wars, he, of course, had that relationship with that Senator Satine from it was a Mandalore. I don't remember now. I don't think Disney's going to pull, if there are any connections between the cartoons, whether it's Clone Wars or Rebels, it goes the other way. It goes the cartoons pulling in characters from the movie. I don't think it's the movie pulling in characters from the cartoon. I think it goes the other way. But
that's probably right.
The ages line up. I mean, if you dial back her age by just a skosh, because she's in her early, she's I think 32 now. You dial back her age just a skosh, and she makes it through Rogue One and ends up having to go off somewhere, or just becomes into background noise in the Rebel Alliance for some reason. It really makes an interesting gap, and it makes that movie even more relevant in terms of the greater Star Wars universe to end up finding out subsequently, oh yeah, by the way, and you may not even get that reveal until Episode 8, and you go back and you find out, but
and who's to say that she couldn't be an older character in this? After all, the history of Skywalker's parentage is a much younger Anakin marrying a much older Padme.
Right. Very true. Very true. I think it would
be an essentially creepy element of Episode 1.
Well, it makes Rogue One. I mean, it really brings it in. I mean, if you begin to start to, most of the fans are saying if she ends up with any kind of accent, if she has any kind of British accent in the film, then everybody's going to start heading that way. And what a brilliant way to kick off these, essentially do what Marvel does this with all of their spin-off movies. They have their core Avengers films, but the spin-off movies